This information is from Wisconsin's Greenfire, Voices for Conservation, a new organization formed to support the conservation legacy of Wisconsin by promoting science-based management of its natural resources. One of our priorities is sharing knowledge about the relationship between agriculture and water quality. This is one of several presentations and documents on this subject available through our website. My name is Chris Mechanic, a member of Wisconsin's Greenfire. I retired from UW Extension at Stevens Point in 2016 after 35 years working in water and natural resources programs. This presentation draws from the expertise of water quality and public health scientists from DNR and the university system, as well as agricultural conservation experience from Wisconsin Department of Agriculture and county conservation departments, who are listed here. Our team members are volunteers, choosing to provide decision makers with the current science on the relationship between cropping practices and water quality. A wide variety of factors influence the relationship between agriculture and water quality. Wisconsin's Greenfire believes that the majority of farmers want to do the right thing for the environment and will do the best they can within their capabilities. To encourage sustainable farming, society needs to foster an economic system that allows responsible farmers to make a living. Achieving environmental goals on most farms is costly, and farms cannot shift environmental costs to their markets. There are significant costs associated with agriculture that farmers and consumers of agricultural products are transferring to others in the form of poor quality groundwater and surface water. Society needs to decide the extent to which it will provide financial assistance to address these deferred costs. Society needs to decide the extent to which it will assist farmers who want to adopt conservation practices but can't afford them, and reward farmers already meeting performance standards, especially those achieving water quality standards. This needs to include accountability to treat farmers fairly and ensure cost-effective use of public funds. The primary purpose of these Wisconsin Greenfire presentations is to make available science that informs farmers and policymakers when statewide minimum practices will still allow local environmental impacts. Finally, society needs to decide the extent to which it will enforce compliance on farms that willfully refuse to adopt or maintain performance standards despite having the available resources to do so. Antibiotics have been called one of the greatest success stories in modern medicine. They are a large part of the reason that life expectancies have increased dramatically in the United States and around the world since the 1900s. In 1900, about 800 of every 100,000 people died of infectious diseases. But by 2014, that number had declined to 34 per 100,000 people. The circled area on the graph indicates a large drop in the death rate that researchers attribute, at least in part, to the development of antibiotics. Without effective antibiotics, we could return to a world where minor, ordinary infections could result in death, and where routine surgical procedures and life-saving therapies could not be justified because of the risk of infection. Any use of antibiotics leads to the evolution of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Here's how it happens. Antibiotics kill bacteria that cause illness, as well as good bacteria that protect the body from infection. The drug-resistant bacteria are then allowed to grow and can take over. And some bacteria give their drug resistance to other bacteria, which causes even more problems. In the United States in 2013, an estimated 23,000 human deaths were caused by resistance to antibiotics. To preserve these life-saving drugs, Antibiotics should be used as little as possible in all settings, including in healthcare and in agriculture, and only when medically necessary and appropriate. Overprescription and misuse of antibiotics by people are major causes of antibiotic resistance. When antibiotics enter the soil, they can also disrupt the soil ecosystem and the natural work of important bacteria that are found naturally in the soil. Agriculture also has a role to play in preventing antibiotic resistance. Many of the same antibiotics that cure human diseases are also used to cure or prevent diseases in livestock. They also have the side effect of promoting animal growth. In the past, they were sometimes used for that purpose. The next 3 slides will illustrate how antibiotic use in agriculture could lead to the loss of important antibiotics needed for human health. Animals, just like people, can carry harmful bacteria in their intestines. When antibiotics are given to animals, the antibiotics kill most bacteria, but resistant bacteria can survive and multiply. Those resistant bacteria can then spread to animal products such as meat, to produce through contaminated water or soil, to prepared food through contaminated surfaces, and into the environment when animals produce feces. People can then become sick with resistant infections from contaminated food that they eat or from contamination that they pick up in the environment. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, about 1 in 5 resistant infections in humans are caused by germs from food and from animals. There have been few studies that have examined antibiotics or antibiotic-resistant bacteria in Wisconsin surface water, lakes or streams, or groundwater. Up to 90% of antibiotics taken by people or animals are excreted in their feces within a matter of days. We do know that wastewater treatment plants and septic systems are inefficient at removing these antibiotics. And in a study in Kewaunee County, multi-drug resistant pathogenic bacteria have been found in sediments in 3 rivers. In the United States in 2015, 71% of all human medically important antibiotics were sold for use on the farm. This is probably proportionate to the biomass of livestock versus people. However, new rules and practices have the potential to greatly lower antibiotic use. As of January 3, 2017, medically important antimicrobials may only be used in the feed or drinking water of food-producing animals with veterinary oversight. They can no longer be used to promote growth. Despite this improvement, concerns remain that loopholes still allow use of highest priority, critically important antibiotics, and also the continuous use of certain antibiotics in agriculture. The Food Safety and Inspection Service of the USDA routinely tests meat, poultry, and egg products for illegal traces of antibiotics. In 2017, it reported that less than 1% of such products tested had antibiotic residues that required the products to be condemned and kept from the market. All milk that is found to contain antibiotic residues is dumped. The amount of milk discarded is consistently less than 1/1000th of 1% of all the milk produced in Wisconsin. Incentives can also be offered to reduce antibiotic use. For example, NSF offers a Raised Without Antibiotics certification program. This provides consumers with assurance that the animal products they buy have been produced without exposure to antibiotics. Finally, more research needs to be done on reducing the concentration of antibiotics in manure before it is spread. This is a complex area, though, because antibiotics differ greatly in their chemical composition, so they behave differently in the environment. For example, some tend to stick to soil while others move easily with water. Some break down quickly while others persist for months in the soil. Digestion and composting are two practices that may have potential in reducing antibiotic loss into the environment. In conclusion, Wisconsin's greenfire has 3 recommendations. We support research on antibiotics and antibiotic-resistant bacteria in Wisconsin waters. We support implementation of the FDA efforts to reduce antibiotic use in livestock. And finally, we support the use of nutrient management plans and compliance checking on manure spreading setbacks and rates to reduce potential off-farm spread of antibiotics. Thank you for listening. For more information, visit our website or email us at info@wigreenfire.org. The following slides contain the references used in preparing this presentation.